What's up, everybody? Good late afternoon or early evening, and we did this last week, so let's do it again. Because last week I did this because the Seahawks did something really, really good. They did something extraordinarily well. Well, I'll tell you, this week they may have done it better, so I guess I'm obligated to do it again. And honestly, I don't even think it's much of a debate that they did it better this week. I'm talking about the pass rush. And you guys know at the end of the week, I usually go over the pass rush numbers, but PFF provides their data pretty quickly after the game ends. They have basically all their data out from last night's game already, and I think it's worth going over. You guys know how I feel about PFF's pressure formula. It's obviously too lax. It's too easy to get a pressure. But that doesn't mean you can't learn something from it because while PFF is too lax, I think PFR, which I typically use, is too tight. Like you can't get a pressure almost. You basically have to get a sack to get a pressure sometimes it feels like. So I think the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. So I don't think what PFF is doing is useless. I think that you can learn stuff here. The way I look at it is PFF pressures measure disruptiveness, but PFR pressures measure destructiveness, if that makes any sense. So I want to take a look at the data that we got from yesterday's game against the Giants, because you will remember last week the Seahawks had, I think it was 36 pressures, according to PFF, on Andy Dalton in that Panthers game. How did they do in this one? Let's start with the defensive line here. Draymond Jones got credited with 4 pressures on Daniel Jones. 4 QB pressures. Jarran Reed got credited with 4 QB pressures as well. And he got hurt and missed the end of the game. He may have gotten at least one more. And the way that game was going, he probably would have gotten one more if he did not miss time. And then you got Mario Edwards, who's coming in with 2 QB pressures in that game. So those are just the starters, and you're already at 10 QB pressures. Miles Adams came in clutch with 2 QB pressures as well. And they don't have Cameron Young numbers out yet. I'm guessing he got 0. He may have gotten 1, but I don't think he got what would be construed as a QB pressure in this game. So defensive line, just the defensive line, those 4 guys, let's call it 12. Let's just say it's 12. It may end up being 13, but let's say it's 12 just from those guys up on the defensive line. Okay, now let's do the edge room. Uchenna Nwosu had probably his best game of the year. He had 3 QB pressures. 2 of them were sacks, which obviously helps a lot, but he had 3 total QB pressures in this game against the Giants. Boye Mafe had 4 QB pressures in this game, and Derek Hall had a career day. I mean, not that his career's been that long, but 5 QB pressures, 2 hits, 3 hurries. So those 3 guys, those 3 edge rushers were combined for 12. Now, Daryl Taylor, we don't have the pressure numbers on yet. PFF is a little bit late to get to Daryl Taylor, which I guess is kind of apropos because he was maybe the one player on the Seahawks defense that didn't make a big monster play in that game or play really well. He was one of the guys who seemed like he just, I don't know, there wasn't much of a presence there. But I think Daryl Taylor got at least 1 pressure in that game. So even if you don't count that, even if you say Daryl Taylor push him to the side, he got 0, that's 12 from your edge rushers. But I'm going to say it's 13 because I think when Daryl Taylor's data gets put out there, it's going to be at least 1 QB pressure. So 25 QB pressures, according to PFF, just from the defensive linemen and the edge rushers. Let's keep going. Let's keep this train a moving. Bobby Wagner, 3 QB pressures in one game, including 2 sacks, of course, but 3 QB pressures. And Jordan Brooks, 2 QB pressures, both of which resulted in a sack. So that's a grand total of 5 QB pressures from the inside linebackers. That gets us all the way up to 30, and we are not done yet. As you guys know, if you watch that game, we are not done yet because you also had Devin Witherspoon with 4 QB pressures on PFF scale. And yeah, I know it's kind of a weird, funny meme now. I know some people are clowning on him a little bit. I don't care. I'm not doing that. Jamal Adams had a QB pressure too. So he had the QB pressure. That gets up to 35. I couldn't find anybody else on this team who had a pressure. Like, I don't think Julian Love did. Quandre Diggs obviously didn't. Mike Jackson didn't. Tariq Woolen didn't. Shoot, what's his name? God, why am I spacing on his name? Devin Bush. Yeah, Devin Bush didn't have one. He didn't play that much on defense. So with these guys, that is 35 PFF QB pressures. 35. Which is the same that we had last week, right? It was either 35 or 36 last week. So 2 straight games where you've got 35 to 36 QB pressures. Now, let's scale things a little bit here. When the Seahawks played the Panthers, Andy Dalton had 58 passing attempts. He got sacked 3 times, and he had 2 runs. So that is 58 plus 3, so 61 plus 2 runs. That's 63 dropbacks. I believe, either 62 or 63. I know one of the runs was a QB scramble where he did drop back to pass. Maybe the other one wasn't. But I believe it's 63 dropbacks to get those pressures. All right? That's last week. This week against the Giants, Daniel Jones drops back to pass and throws it 34 times. He drops back to pass and gets sacked 10 times. Paris Campbell, they're counting it as a sack. I guess they're saying he was planning to throw it on that play. 1 sack. He drops back to pass once and gets sacked. And then Daniel Jones takes off and runs with it a few times in that game. Now, some of the runs are planned runs with Daniel Jones, but some of them are dropbacks where he takes off and scrambles because he can't find a receiver. So, Daniel Jones, 34 plus 10 equals 44. And then if you count the Paris Campbell play, that's 45. And then there are probably 5 QB scrambles on a planned pass here, maybe more. So 50 to 52, I would say. Let's call it 50. So the Seahawks get the same number of QB pressures that they got in 63 opportunities last week on about 50 opportunities this week. So the success rate is going this way. It's going up. And keeping in mind the fact that the pressure resulted in more sacks than last week. The pressure resulted in turnovers, which we didn't get any last week. I think that we have a pretty conclusive answer as to which pass rush was better. So if I'm going to make a video celebrating the pass rush last week, I got to do it this week, right? Last week was fantastic. This might be historic, though, how good our pass rush was last week. And obviously, it's an indictment on the Giants' offense. But wow, this is a trend that I can get behind here, and I'm very interested to see what PFR has to say, because obviously they're going to have less, but they may not have nearly as many less as we did last week. So yeah, that's your pass rush data from PFF this week. It's even better than last week. In fact, it's probably way better than last week. All right. Hope to see you guys in stream tonight with the Hawks Nest. Hope to see you guys on Twitch later tonight as well. See you guys later, and go Hawks.